Good morning. How is everybody doing today? Who all's here? Tell me where you are. And if you got your coffee handy. It's kind of early in my world. I don't normally do this kind of thing this early, so I got my coffee, my bulletproof coffee. So good morning, good morning. I'm Jenny Gallagher, and I am one of the admins in the group for newbies. And we started doing these Facebook Live videos last fall when I noticed several folks starting to have trouble with different concepts. And so I decided to start making some videos to help y'all out. So I see Pam Rogers. Good morning. I don't know who else is there. But hey Lisa, good morning. I'm glad y'all are hopping on to watch. So a lot of what I'm going to cover today is actually pretty basic, simply because of the newbie questions, the real newbie people, the folks that have just gotten machines in the last month or two. Elaine, I want to know where you at, girl, because I saw you're from Vaden, and that's my territory. That's where I'm from. Well, not really from. I grew up in Ridgeland, but all my married life I spent in Attala County up at Carmack. So we go through Vaden a lot when we're home. Used to drive through Vaden to go to work in Winona. So I'm excited to find a neighbor, even though I'm now in Omaha. So, hey Lisa, hey Sherry, White, Reinhard. I'm so glad y'all are jumping on. Hi Michelle. So I don't normally, let me make this clarification, I don't normally sew in pearls. I normally don't sew with any of my jewelry, but I'm dressed today because today is Miss Barbara Bush's funeral, and it's been published and encouraged that we support her family by wearing pearls today. And I'm not wearing blue because blue is not my favorite color, but there is some blue in my little shirt, and I will back up and show y'all my shirt. I made it. It is from the Tasha pattern from New Horizons. So if you sew, it's a really simple knit pattern, and it's actually a dress pattern, but I cut it off short to make a top out of it, and I absolutely love it. Can you see? See, it's nice and stretchy, and the fabric is from the Fabric Cobbler, my favorite place to buy fabric other than my candy shop back home in Ackerman, so I don't get there very often. Kelly, you're very welcome. I love teaching others and have been doing that for many years, and now with Facebook Live I can do it this way, so it's really fun. So we're going to start at the computer, and I use the embroidery software, so do be aware that your software might be slightly different, but you can do the same commands. You just might have different words for your commands. Okay? Thanks, Lisa. Any questions before we get started? Is there anything in particular you want me to address or talk about? Anything you want me to answer? Good morning from Alabama, Pam. Yay, Alabama's here and present. Good job. My son's a Roll Tide fan. Does that count? So I see about 25 of y'all have hopped on. Good morning, Pam Skidmore. So I'm going to turn the phone around now so you can see my computer screen. And while I know the resolution isn't that great for a live video, I'll do my best to explain the commands so you can find them. Remember, I'm using Embird, so Sew What Pro, Embrilliance Essentials, All of the other software will be slightly different, but you can still do the same things. Just maybe find different commands for them. Remember that we have a frequently asked questions post. It's now called announcements in the new Facebook format. It used to be the pinned post, but there's about 20 some odd frequently asked questions posted there, along with some links and information. And some of that information we're going to cover as we go through this session. Well, hello, Veronica. How do I say that? Vernona? That's cool. I like that. Vernona. Haven't heard of that one. Good morning from Mississippi, Louise. Yes. How are you today? What part of Mississippi? I'm from Carmack, outside Kosciuszko on the Natchez Trace. So anyway, I'm going to flip the camera around and put it on my computer screen. So we're going to start by telling you that I bought my design and I downloaded it to my computer. So I'm going to minimize this screen. I want to show you, for people that do not, that's my hubby. We were in Alaska there. For people that do not have software, I'm going to show you how to get your design from your computer to your USB. So I have opened up this little file folder at the bottom. You can also go through your start menu and computer. However you find your file folders, open your file folder. And I have a folder called A1 Ready to Stitch Words. I have it A1, so it always stays at the top no matter what other folders I add at the bottom. And so A1 Ready to Stitch Words, I've already merged my design. And we're going to do it again for y'all. Good morning from Ocean Springs. Woohoo! Fort Worth, Texas. Yay, Monique. One of my favorite racetracks is there. Daughter lives in Soldotna. That's where we lived, Linda. We were in, I worked in Soldotna, lived in Kenai. So it's trying to open up my Embroidery editor with the design. So what you would do is you would right click and send to where you want it to go. So you would put it on your USB drive, which for me is the local disk E. And so that would move a copy over to my USB drive. Does that make sense? So you open up, I'm gonna do it one more time so you can see. You open up your file folder. Oops, I clicked internet. Looking through the screen, I did bad. So you open your file folder, go to the file where you keep your embroidery files. I have them labeled embroidery files 2016 because that's when I got this computer, and so I moved everything to this computer. I have a file called A1 Ready to Stitch Words. Those are the files I am ready to stitch, thus the name. Once I've done merging and manipulating and moving things around in designs, I put them in this folder. Oops, opened up Jolson. Sorry about that. I'm looking through the computer. It's really, through the phone. It's hard to see the computer stuff through my screen. Good morning from Southeast Kansas. I'm glad you're not sleeping in, Sandy. So then you go to the PS version of the file, right click, and then either copy or send to and pick your USB folder. So I don't remember who was asking me about that this morning very early, but that's how to move designs if you do not have software. So if you have software, we are going to merge the software with a name. This is going to be the finished product. I've already designed it, so it would be ready for y'all to see this morning. So we're going to start from scratch. So we're going to go to File and New, and then we're going to go to File and Merge. And so I'm going to locate my sorted files. Let me back up. So I have set up folders that help me minimize the hunting and searching. So I have folders for some of the most common fonts I buy. You can see fonts by Juju and Jolson's and Blasto Stitch. And then I had bought the discs from 8 Claws and a Paw many years ago before they went out of business. And it was literally 1,000 or more fonts. And so the 8 Claws fonts are embroidery fonts A through L and then M through Z. And they're really cool because they came with this folder full of pictures. And it is like the best thing ever for looking for fonts. So you can see I can pull up just photographs of the 8 Claws font. So I can look through what I want here and then go to the Embird software and merge whatever I want. So I know those fonts are there. So if I need one of them, it's there. Tina, I know it's blurry and I apologize. Computer resolution on a phone is not that great, but go through and listen to the words, and I'm explaining everything step by step. If you need to watch it again, you can do that. So I'm going to click on sorted files, and I'm going to my license design folder where I put things that have that are characters and stuff. So I know Wild Style's name is W, so it's way down here at the bottom somewhere. Where'd she go? Oh, it's not in alphabetical order. So I'm changing to name, so they'll go back to alphabetical. So here's the Wild Style portrait head that I bought off of Etsy. This is my first time to stitch it, so I'm in your boat this morning. I have not done a practice run, so I don't have a clue how this designer's work looks. So because it's still in a zipped file, it's taking a little longer to load. And so then you have to answer that question. And then we'll scroll down here to find Wild Style. These are in alphabetical order. And so there's the pictures. There she is. I'm doing the 6x10 because I have a 6x10 hoop. If you have the 5x7 770, you'll pick the 5x7. Always pick the PES if you have it. DST will work on some of the machines. And so now you notice that she comes in vertical, but my hoop is horizontal. So I'm going to find my hoop frame in my software and open it up. And I'm able to come over here and select the vertical form of my hoop, and it will change that. So everybody with me so far? If you have questions, please don't hesitate to type them in. Now we're going to merge a font. So I'm going to go back to my font page. I'm going to pick a Juju font, and I'm just going to pick something because I've already made the one we're really going to use. But this is Andalusia from Designs by Juju. And I'm just going to pick 3 letters. A, C. Oops, I need both hands for this. Hang on one second. So to pick more than one letter, I'm going to hold down. I hope you can see that. I am picking A, C, and E. I'm going to write the word ace. And so I'm going to pick the capital A while I hold down the shift and click. Sandy, I am using Embird, but in all of the software, you can do this step. You hold down the control key, the CTRL key, while you click. So let me see if I can do this. Control, oops, wrong button. It's hard to handle, need 3 hands when you only have 2. So I'm going to pick, here we go, A, and then I'm going to scroll down here and pick C. See how they're both highlighted? Both the A and the C are highlighted. And then I'm going to pick the E, and that will highlight all 3 of my letters for my pretend name, ACE. And so then I'm going to click OK, and it's going to import them into the design. Okay, so it does put them all in the same spot. It automatically centers each letter. And so now all you have to do is separate them out. Let's move it down here so I can work better. So we have E and C, and I'm just moving my mouse as I hold down, because I'm on a laptop, as I hold down my left mouse. So now I have ACE as my name, but I don't want it sitting down here because it'll be right over her face or chest. So I'm going to move it up here out of the way, and I'm going to try to figure out the best placement for this name because my design is so large, and you can see it literally fills much of the screen. So I've put Wild Style back in the hoop. Notice it's a little bit not centered. So I'm going to come over here and use my center command. This will center it sideways. This will center it up and down. And this will center it in both directions. If you haven't been using the Embird keys, they're really awesome if you will learn to use them. So I'm going to center horizontally, and that's going to put it right in the middle of the hoop. And then I'm going to scroll up to the top, and I'm going to highlight all 3 letters by holding down my left mouse, and then I can move the whole word at one time. See that? And so I want it to be part of the design. I don't want it to look like it's stuck out somewhere crazy. So I'm going to put it right there. And I think I've placed them pretty straight. But if you're not sure, I'm going to show you a command you can do. So you can go to Edit and Set. Oops, I need to highlight the letters. Sorry about that. Highlight the letters. Oops, it picked all of it. So I only want the letters, so I'm going to highlight those and right click or go to Edit, and you can come down to the Set toolbar and click Align, and you can choose space equally and bottom and OK. And yeah, sometimes the glitch is it centers it with the whole frame. So we're going to move it back up to the top and sit it right where I want it above her head. Okay? So then we want to make sure that our whole design is now centered. Remember, we didn't center up and down a while ago. We just centered sideways. Sharon, yes, I am using Embird, and you did spell it correct. So now I'm going to highlight the whole design. And so you can see I've got a box all the way around all of it. So I've just highlighted all of that. And then I'm going to go to my little center design command right here. All of the softwares have similar. The pictures may be different and the terms may be different based on your software, but they all do the same thing. Okay, so now my design is centered up and down. There's about a 1/2 inch top and bottom, and barely enough on the insides. Okay? So everybody see how I did that? Now I'm going to go to File and Save As. I also want to click Center in Hoop to be absolutely certain that the machine centers my design. Always start from center, because if you start from center, you'll always know exactly where your design is. If you try to start from the top or the bottom, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really difficult. So the way I name files is by using the name I've put in the design first. So this is Ace. And I usually put the font. So this is Andalusia. See, I'm naming the font. Ace and Andalusia font with Wild Style. Okay, and then I just click Save. So I want to make sure that I save my design in two places, because one place might get lost, damaged, or corrupted. So I always save in two places. The first place I save is to my USB. So I'm going to come up here in this toolbar, in the Save In toolbar, menu bar, and I'm going to save it to my USB, which is my local disk E. And so then my name is still there, Ace Andalusia font with Wild Style. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go back to Set File and Save As. Center in Hoop, always. And then I'm going to change my Save In to my A1 Ready to Stitch folder, so that if I lose my USB, I still have it already designed. So it's still the same file name, and I click Save, and so now it's in two places. Okay, so over here, while we're talking about software, over here you'll see the order things are going to stitch. And normally when I'm merging designs and names, I put my design first, because if it's going to mess up, it's going to be in the design, not in my font name. So I usually will stitch the design first and then the name. And you can use that set envelope feature if you want in the edit mode. You can go to set envelope, and you can use the set envelope feature in Embird to order your stitching. You can tell it what order to do your letters in. We've already saved this file, so it's not going to do what I'm trying to teach you to do, but listen to my words if you have issues. If you want to if you have a long word, for instance, Veronica, and you want to get all of your letters exactly on a specific line, like straight across here, you can set envelope and with your Veronica letters highlighted, and it will put Veronica all the way across here in exactly the right space. The other thing that will do is it will order your letters exactly from left to right. So Veronica would be your name if you had Veronica for a name. Does that make sense? So all the software can do this. It's just your version might have different looking icons and different words. Okay? So now I am going to take my USB and put it over here in my computer, my machine, if I can find the thing. So remember that I have, yes, Elaine, I can see you here. I have an NOV's 1400E. So I used to have a 770, and I used to have a Futura. But when we left Alaska, we had to sell most of our belongings. We just didn't have room for everything. And so when I sold all my machines there, the condition was that I replace it when I got here. And so I upgraded to this machine, and I love it. It's now been discontinued, but the 1600 is what's available. And these will do a 5x7. They'll do all the smaller hoop sizes, like the 770, but this one does up to 6x10. And so I love it, especially now that my grandkids are getting bigger. I have up to 10, one's about to be 11 years old. So from 11 years old down to about almost 3. So for the smaller shirts, I still stick to the 5x7 frames. But for most of the bigger kids, I use the 6x10. And so your screen is going to be black and white. But most of the commands are similar. You may just have to look around in your touchscreen to find your exact command. Your manual has pictures and descriptions of all the commands that you can find in your touchscreen. So if you have a brand new machine and you don't know what you're doing, first thing you need to do is take out your manual and go through it step by step, picture by picture, find the command, click on your machine and touch things. You won't find out what your machine can do until you play with it. And you don't have to be stitching to play with the touchscreen. Okay? So, Brenda, I'm glad you found us. And yes, you can go back and watch the beginning later. So, we're going to talk about the touchscreen for just a second. On your touchscreen, you have a paper icon. Most of your commands that determine the settings for your machine are in this folder, so to speak. So I have different commands because my machine is different, but you have some of these. You can change the color in your machine to whatever thread color you're using, and you can change your embroidery speed. My machine will change embroidery speed up to 850. In the 770, you can do 350 and 650, I think. I typically like around 500 or 600, especially when I'm using vinyl, because it adds a thickness to the stitching, and much faster than that, and I run the risk of shredding thread. Remember, this is glitter. I'll show you the supplies we're using in a minute, but remember that the glitter vinyl has small flecks of sharp edges all glued between the layers, and so those sharp edges do dull your needle, and they also will shred thread if the machine is going way too fast. So when I was doing these designs on my 770, I always used the speed at 350 to help reduce shredding. So you can use your over key, and you'll see other screens. Here is tension. I go back and forth between -2 and -4 depending on what I'm doing. Most things that I use vinyl for, I do about -2. I'm going to pick -3 this time, simply because I'm going to have multiple layers of vinyl in a couple of the spots. Okay. I don't remember if you can change your embroidery foot height in the 770 or not, but if you can, it'll be in this screen in the paper icon. And you can also change from inch to millimeter if you prefer, depending on your preferred measurements. So, questions about the touchscreen? Play with it, touch with it. You won't know what it can do until you play in it. So we're going to load our design by punching the USB icon, and that takes a minute. So if you have questions, please go ahead and post them. I am going to show you our fabrics. So I have a size 10-12 tank top that, let me hang it up here. Let's see if I can get y'all to see it. There you go. So I have a size 10 tank top that I'm going to be stitching this on. And it's just one of the simple little Walmart shirts. I have hot pink, remember the design. It's gonna be Wild Style, and she has a pink and a blue strip in her hair. So I have hot pink glitter vinyl that won't stand up for me. And I have some turquoise blue for the other section. I have some yellow grunge from the Fabric Cobbler. It was the only yellow I had, but I found a place on this piece of fabric that that is minimally grunged. You can see there's several different shades of yellow and stainy looking designs. So I'm going to use this section right here. So last night, prepping for this, I went ahead and ironed on a small piece of Heat and Bond Light. You can use Heat and Bond Light or Wonder Under. And so then we'll just peel this off. Because we're going to need to use this in a little bit to put on our Wild Styles face. Okay? Let me see questions. Sharon says, where do I get my vinyl? I order my vinyl from Mickery World. There are several sites. Wendy Skaggs has Sweet and Sassy Designs, and she sells some of this. Punk Embroidery sells some. There are several different sources, and I get the kind that is completely sealed. You can see where I had to rip something off before. But it is canvas backed. I don't know if you can see the weave in the canvas. But it sews absolutely beautiful. Like, it's stunning when it gets done. And the glitter is completely sealed with a very thin layer of clear plastic, clear vinyl, whatever it is, so that none of the flakes fleck off in the laundry. If you use some of the kinds of vinyl, it will fleck off. And I know I've seen people in the group say, mine doesn't fleck, but if you watch other pieces of laundry in that load, you're going to find pieces of glitter all over your clothes. And so this keeps that from happening. Plus, eventually, it's going to wear completely off. And like, I know these are temporary things. Kids wear them for one season, but you still want it to hold up. Okay, so now the USB has loaded. Yes, Marty, machines have changed, and that's fine. You're welcome to use whatever machine. So I'm going to scroll over, and there is, notice there's two Wild Styles. One is the one we just made, and I can tell because that's I can tell just the shape that I had for the A, that's not the R I wanted. I can tell also that this is green. Luckily, I have a color screen. Y'all have a plain black and white. But I can tell this is the design I wanted and intend to use for this design. So I'm going to click Set. And then in this screen, your screen for adjusting, moving, and rotating is slightly different, but you still have these same commands. And so you can go through these commands. You can go to your size. You can reduce it. It will only reduce so far. So it went from 9.19 to 8.27. So that's almost an inch. And then we can use this command to go back to its normal size. We can move it if we need the design to go up. We can hit this button and you can watch the design move up or down. We can move it over. Of course, this design is pretty close to its maxed out size. So but I'm going because I don't want any of those playing clicks to count. So I'm going to put the design back in right quick. Any questions about how to use your touch screen? There's other commands on here, and all I can suggest is that you click and play. Every machine has a different touch screen. All the Brothers and all the Innovies machines are very similar. so that I was able to sit down and play with this machine real quick. Like there was no real learning curve because all the commands are pretty similar. So I'm going to set my design. Your rotate screen, if your design only fits lengthways like this one does, when you click your 90 degree, it's going to turn it 180 degrees because the machine recognizes it won't fit the other way. And then I'm just going to click reset because I want her right side up for what I'm going to do. And so I usually leave her loaded on the machine at this point here with the measurement showing because I'm going to need those measurements in a minute while I'm centering my shirt in my hoop, which is what I'm fixing to show you how to do. Okay? Any questions so far? I see you joined us, Zerlene. Good morning. So let's see here. I need to put you, let me get my phone in my little holder. Okay, so now, let's see here if we can get where y'all can see my workspace. How's that? Sandy says, what would be the purpose to rotate 1%? So I had this happen a while back. I was making a hooded towel, and I positioned my towel, and when I laid it on the stabilizer, I thought it was straight. I went by my line and everything else, but somehow when it landed on the machine and I went through the first placement stitching, it wound up slightly off. And when you're doing hooded towels and you use the very edge as your line, you don't want it to be off. So I moved it 1%, and that straightened the design up in comparison to my towel. Even though the on-screen picture looked a little wonky, it stitched exactly where I wanted it. So I didn't have to redo the hooping or anything, rip stitches out or anything. So it can be helpful. So I want to make sure y'all can see my table. There we go. Much better. Okay. So on my work surface, I have my pre-cut stabilizer. I went ahead and cut that out for y'all. My stabilizer is this big 100-foot roll from Amazon. It's either Thread Art or World Widener brand. And sometimes I've ordered from World Widener when they've been less expensive. But I went ahead and cut that this morning off, so I have it ready to go. And mine barely fits my hoop, y'all. It's a tight fit. So I'm going to spray just a little bit of stabilizer. Spray adhesive on my stabilizer. And then I'm going to hold this right here and press that in all the way so it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to tighten up my screw. So the design I have pulled up on my machine. Remember, she's vertical. So I'm going to keep my hoop vertical to me so that I can place everything right. So I have marked, you'll see, I have marks on my hoop so that I know where true center is. So true center is this green line right here and this green line here. The cross pieces for my hoop really are at center. So, and the way I found that out is I put just this on the machine one time, dropped the needle, used that as my center point to find all my other points. And so then I marked so I would always know where center is. And that way I don't use my little prongs. Those prongs are just for the grids, if you use your grids to help you identify locations. So I'm going to line up my center marks with the grid underneath on my quilting mat, and I'm going to take my tag off of my shirt. Normally I iron this, but I think y'all will get it, and this is, I'll explain to you what I do. So I've turned my shirt inside out, and to find the center, I'm going to line up the seams at the bottom and the underarm seam, and that is going to give me my center of my shirt. Okay, y'all with me? So I matched up seams, and then that gives me my center of my shirt. So see how nice and straight that is? And if you look very carefully, the line is pretty straight on this ribbed t-shirt. So then I'm going to take this, and remember when I said we still need our picture from the machine. So my machine says that the tall part of my design is 9.19 inches. So just over 9 inches. So I'm going to start with for my center. So what's half of 9? 4.5. So it's going to be, the design is going to be just over 4.5 inches from center to the top. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So I'm going to go all the way to this line and place my neckline just above that line, so that I get it properly placed and not too low, not too high. And I'm going to very carefully press that onto my sprayed stabilizer. And then, can y'all see me putting my hand in here? Let me make sure I can. Yep, y'all can see me. So I'm going to slide my hand in here very carefully. I'll put this hand over here. And I'm going to lift and gently lay down the other half of the shirt where it belongs. I'm barely pressing. I'm not pulling or pushing fabric at all. I'm just tapping it into place. See my hand tapping? So that is how you get your shirt on your stabilizer without pulling or stretching your knit shirts. Okay, so then I'm going to start to pin. Can you see the edge? Let me turn this a little bit. I want to make sure you can see this, because this is the important part. Once you get your shirt secured to the stabilizer, you want to start adding pins. And I go in and out. I use big long quilting pins. I go in and out the entire perimeter of the design, overlapping a little bit at the head and tip of the pin. This is a skill that takes practice. If it pushes your fabric, push your fabric back in alignment properly. I'm using my thumb and my finger to help guide the tip of my pen. I try to use my fingernails because my fingertips get hurt. So I'm just going in and out. To completely secure all of the shirt. So I have the bottom done, and now I'm going to move to the top. So I'm going to very carefully open up the neckline, and again, starting with the center at the top, just put pins in all the way around. You can't overpin. You can't. You can underpin, but don't. Underpinning is a guaranteed shifting of your fabric and or design in an inappropriate way. So see how this pin overlaps? It is necessary to pin all of this stuff really well, or you're going to risk your design shifting. This design contains 30,000 stitches. So 30,000 stitches is a lot of stitching to put on this tiny thin tank top t-shirt. So normally when I have a design with 30,000 stitches, I would actually put 3 layers of stabilizer. I would hoop the one like I've already done. I would add another layer of stabilizer on top of that inside between the shirt and here. It would not be hooped, it would just be floated. And then I would float an additional piece back here. But since we're using a lot of vinyl, and vinyl is going to cover the entire design, vinyl is a great stabilizer. So I don't think it's going to need that extra stabilizer for the number of stitches. But normally the standard rule is 8 to 10,000 stitches per layer of medium cutaway. If you use heavy cutaway, that's about half or 2/3. So you could get away with 1 layer of heavy cutaway for every 3 to 4,000 stitches. No, I did that backwards. Yeah. No, that's back. Yeah. So 1 layer of heavy cutaway for every 7 to 8,000, 6 to 8,000 stitches. Yeah, I said it backwards. I'm sorry. I was trying to do too much math in my head with not enough coffee in my brain. So this is the step that probably takes the longest in the preparation, but it's the step that matters the most. If you don't get this step right, you risk the whole design not being successful. Okay, so now we have this. We have the top and the bottom both pinned, but now we need to work on the sides. So I'm going to go up the sides a little bit. I'm sorry, I did one side without telling y'all I was doing the side, but I'm going to go up the other side. It's just so much habit for me. I'm sorry that I skipped that. But we're just going to go up the sides the same way as we did the top and the bottom until they meet. And I can't see your questions or comments right now, but as soon as I get this in the machine, I'll go back and answer all the questions. Okay, so then now comes the complicated part. Because people are like, how do you get that done? So now that the entire shirt is stabilized on your stabilizer, you can stretch and pull the rest of this all you want. So we're going to turn the shirt back right side out. And so you'll see that as I pull on the shoulder pieces, the shirt takes back its sort of normal shape. So we're going to start by pinning the shoulder to the outside piece of stabilizer. Here, you with me? Can y'all see that? Okay, so it's pinned. I'm going to take and pull, and I'm going to pin the other side of the tank top shoulder to another piece of the stabilizer. I'm going to take and pull. and pin. I'm using my finger underneath here to push the pin back up to the top. And so we're going to pull the arm over here to the side. So I'm going to try to show y'all what I'm doing. I'm running the pins through the fabric and stabilizer and then pushing it back toward the top. On my particular stabilizer, I have very little side room because it's such a tiny sliver left over. On your 770 5x7 hoop, you'll have a little bit more that you can use, and it's a little bit easier. But I'm just attaching the shirt to the outside edges, the floppy edges of the stabilizer. So this isn't going to get attached very well. I'm going to have to babysit it and make sure it doesn't get caught in my stitching while we're going. I'll try to pin just a little piece of it. Got a little piece of it. So that'll keep most of it out of the way. And then you can take and pull this down to the bottom and put a little pin right there. Okay, so now you can see my shirt is completely stabilized. So I see lots of comments and questions. I'll go back and answer them as soon as I get this going on the machine. So now, because this is ribbed, some people would say you need to use Solvay, the water-soluble stabilizer. But remember, the design, all of it is going to be on vinyl. So it's going to hold the stitching above the fabric. So I'm not going to use water-soluble stabilizer for this design. There's not really much need. You can, it's not right or wrong, but this is a play shirt for my kids. It's not an order for a customer. So it kind of depends on the purpose and what effort you're willing to put into your designs. This is a play shirt for a birthday party for my granddaughter. So it doesn't need to be extremely perfect. Like, it's going to be beautiful no matter what I do, but she's going to love it. So now we're going to take this to the machine. I'm going to move my camera over here where I can see y'all's questions, and we're going to load this puppy up on the machine. Okay, I know you're a little crooked. I'm going to fix y'all in just a minute. So we have the design in the computer. You can see the touch screen over there, and this is one of the reasons I love my new machine. The 5x7, the 770 does not have this color screen, and it doesn't list your colors that you're going to be using like this. So it's pretty awesome to have this machine. So I'm going to slide my hoop on my machine, and then I am going to thread her. She has no tension on any of the tension discs. So that y'all can see this better, I'm going to use this really light pink for her placement. Okay, so I'm going to start going through her 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and after 4 I'm going to drop the presser foot. This is extremely important to make sure the thread gets caught in the tension discs. See how I can tug on it? And it's a little bit tight. If I raise the presser foot, it just comes off extremely easy. I can pull it back and forth. So I'm going to lower the presser foot after 4, and then I'm going to tuck it behind that little flap at number 6, and then thread it through my, yeah, that figures. Run it through my threader that doesn't want to work today. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm going to go back and catch up with comments in just a second. So I'm going to let her stitch that while I take the camera so I don't have to sit here with the machine so loud in your ear. Okay, so we're going to hit the green start button and she's going to stitch. Okay, so now let me turn this around and look at your questions. So I did that one. Where are my lamps from? IKEA. I'll show you the whole thing. It's a really cool lamp. Like, it attaches to my table and is really flexible. Like, I can turn it anywhere. But it was like maybe $15 or so at IKEA. It's really awesome. Sharon, yes, it is cutaway. Thanks, Katrina, for answering that. Oh, okay, well, I'll be threading the machine a bunch. I'll re-show that. I'm sorry. Yes, Sandy, it has a push button presser foot. And so it's finished with the outline. And I just hope to goodness, Lord, that's big. I hope my black, where is my black? Here's my drawer full of vinyl. Lord, I hope it's big enough to cover. I might be in trouble, y'all. Ooh, shoot. Let's see. So I really only need her. I'm going to do this in 2 pieces. Y'all are going to get to see me finagle some stuff. So my vinyl that I thought I had a whole sheet, but I don't see one. I love this stuff. You can see I have all kinds of colors, but I'm low on black. So, but look at the design. I'm going to show y'all how to make do when you make a flubub like I just did. So notice that she is not black here, although this designer has made the entire thing black. So I am going to cut my vinyl into 2 pieces and try to figure out the best placement for that. So it does cut threads, Donna, but my cutter is acting up and I have not had a chance to fix it. So it does cut threads, it's just mine is acting up. So I didn't want to tie up y'all with machine issues today. So yeah, it's a pretty cool machine. It really is. So I'm going to put this back in my little tripod. See if I can get y'all a little straighter this time. Okay, so now I got to figure out, let me see. I want to move to another frame. I'm looking for some of the tack down for her face, and I think that's it. So I'm going to stitch. What I've done is I've advanced. Let me show y'all what I just did. I used my plus and minus needle to advance to the frame where I think, see the outline of her face is that same outline? So I'm going to stitch the outline of her face so I can cut my black vinyl to fit in the right space. This is what you call problem solving on the fly. And I'll definitely repeat the threading where y'all can see it when I change threads. Okay, so now I am going to try to cut the biggest piece first. So I'm going to lay this on the design, and I am going to try to figure out, wonder if I could do it. No, it won't do that way. We're going to have to do, let's do it this way. I'm going to need this much for the bottom, so I think I'm going to try to do that right there. That'll give me plenty of leftover, and I can use this right here. So this will cover all of her hair, and then what I have left over, I hope will fit her bottom. I'm going to slide her back in the hoop. So now we've got to back up again, and we'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm using the plus minus, and I'm going to back up. Thread takes you whole frames at a time, and spool, yes, thread spools take you one whole thread at a time, and needles take you back and forth one needle at a time, one stitch at a time. So I'm trying to find where to put the hair down with. But it's not going to be there. I'm going to have to do, let's just go back and do the one over again. So this is what happens when you buy from digitizers on Etsy that don't know what they're doing. So they've wasted a huge, oops, wait. I just goofed up. It grabbed my vinyl under the hoop. Let me cut that out right quick. So yeah, Etsy designers that you aren't sure about, they're not the best. This whole digitized design, the whole face, the whole body being black, isn't totally unnecessary. That huge amount of face in the middle is wasted with your applique fabric. And so that's not ideal. Somebody, a good designer that knows what they're doing, would not have done that. They would have separated the black. And if I had looked yesterday after I bought it, I would have separated it and done it ahead in my software for y'all. So I apologize. But these are the kinds of problems we face every time we open a design and start to stitch. So it doesn't matter what problem comes our way. We just have to figure out a good way to manage it. I'm going to replace that. And I am going to grab, this is where you might find your Solvay very handy. I'm going to grab a piece of Solvay since I have this odd shaped piece of vinyl going in right here. This will give me a smooth surface and it won't grab my vinyl again like it just did. So it's going to stitch all of her, remember? It doesn't know just to do the part that I want stitched. It's going to do the whole design. And so we'll have to trim carefully. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go back to the table so I can trim the black. Let me put y'all right here. And I'm going to rip my salvie off because I don't really need it now. I just needed it to hold the vinyl in place where it would not snag my needle or my hoop. And so I am going to just go through here and trim. Can y'all see me trimming? There we go. So I use the light in this instance to help me see my threads because I'm old and my eyes don't work well all the time. So I'm just going to trim this out. We don't need this down here. So I'm going to just trim all of this around the outside edge very carefully, trying not to cut my fabric of my shirt. These are the most awesome scissors, but they are so tiny and pointed, like they will snag anything if you aren't careful. So you have to really make sure the tip is not snagging your fabric. It's very easy to do. I have cut more than one shirt and had to try to figure out a way to fix it. So I'm going to, you see how this is a little humped up a little bit because it's not stitching down around the hair, the face. I will hold this down when I get to stitching and it will pull it back in the right place. So on little sharp edges, like in right here, I lift up and very gently push up on the stabilizer. I want to push just enough to raise it, but not enough to pull the stabilizer out of place. It's a very tricky balance to put just enough pressure without damaging your project. Okay, so now I have the piece for the hair, and I'm going to trim some of this out. I don't really need all of that. I need that there. So once we redo the face placement, I will trim that out some more. I don't want to go too far though. So we're going to leave that alone for now. And now we're going to try to put my bottom part, which there's plenty of vinyl for now, okay? I'm going to grab another piece of salvie because I have multiple layers in the frame. I'm just going to lay this across so it won't grab anything inappropriately. Remember, it's going to stitch the whole frame, not just the bottom part we want stitched. Okay, I'm going to check for questions while that's stitching. Oops, I'm sorry, you don't need to look at my floor. I came to the back of the machine because that's where most of the... So I'm just going to stop it because all of that other is done. So see, it stitched the bottom part, and I'll just trim this off. Okay? So I'm going to answer questions right quick. Yep, Elizabeth, Kelly's correct. You use the thread spool to move frames and the needle to move each stitch. So, yep. All right. We're going to take this off. And come back to the table. I'm going to take the Solby off again. And then I'm going to trim right here. So I usually lift my either fabric or vinyl to help me find where to cut. So on fabric, you don't have to trim quite as close, but on vinyl, it's so thick that you really want to get the vinyl as close as you possibly can. Otherwise, it can sneak out from under your stitching. The one thing that the glitter vinyl does, in addition to dulling needles, is it dulls scissors very quickly too because of the sharp edges of the glitter. And so my tips aren't as short as they used to be, as sharp as they used to be. And so sometimes I wind up using them like a knife, like this, and just cutting. Or like a seam ripper and just sliding it through until it snags the thread. Okay, so all that troubleshooting has now gotten us our basic black down for Wild Style. So now we can proceed like normal through our freaking design. I'm sorry for that, y'all. But that just goes to show you that buying off Etsy from a non-recognized source sometimes results in problems. So if you're sewing along and you had your whole black sheet of vinyl, you are probably way far ahead of us right now. So good job. So we're going to put this back on the machine and advance to the next spot. So she's going to put down next the placement for the pink vinyl. And so I'm going to show you here again how to thread. Let me make sure y'all can see me thread. Can y'all see the machine? Yes, this is marine vinyl. I do not recommend using the heat transfer vinyl at all. It's too thin, and the stitching actually cuts the heat transfer vinyl. It doesn't hold well long term. Like, it's fine for a few uses, but after a couple of launderings, the heat transfer vinyl often comes out from under the stitching. And it's fine if you heat transfer it and it's literally adhered to the fabric, then no problem. But the edges do come out from under the stitching with some of the heat transfer vinyl. Mona, I get my vinyl from Micry World, but there are several reputable sources. Wendy Skaggs has Sweet and Sassy Designs, and she sells vinyl. Punk Embroidery sells vinyl, and I can't remember, but there's several good groups in the embroidery world that sell all that. Oops, I turned away my comments. Yes, Tina, we all have troubles, no matter what kind. It's why we mostly learn to go with the flow with this kind of hobby. So I'm going to show you again how to thread. I'm going to talk you through threading right quick. Whoops, knocked over my whole phone. Sorry about that, y'all. So I'm going to take off this thread. So I have no tension on my tension discs. Okay, so notice that first. I'm only pulling backwards when there's no tension. If there were tension on my machine, if my presser foot is down, the tension is activated. So you don't ever pull backwards that way, ever. You can damage your tension discs. Release the tension, raise the presser foot, and then you can pull your thread comfortably without damaging your machine. Whatever habit you learn is fine. If you learn to cut your thread here and then pull the bottom with or without tension, that's perfectly fine. It's no sweat. Either method is perfectly okay. The only thing that's not is to pull this way, pull back toward the spool when the green light is on. Here we go threading. I hold my thread in both hands, go through 1, 2, 3, 4. After 4, I lower my presser foot so it puts tension. See, it's not pulling very much. And then wrap it through 6 and through your threader, and you're done. So I usually leave a little bit longer tail just to make sure it threads well. Okay, so we're going to stitch this pink part. Sometimes I talk about the sew simulator in the software. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you can watch your design stitch in most software. Can you see the stitches running around there? So we're fixing to start, and it shows you the colors up here in the color bar that it's going through. You see, you can watch your stitching. So especially if you resize a project, you can stitch it in your virtual stitch out and be able to see if there's any gaps or really bad stitched areas once you've resized it. But I usually do this watch this while I'm going through here, because it'll tell me what piece of the design I am going to go through next. So we're going to press the green button, and it's going to stitch the chunk of hair that's pink. So that's our placement stitch for her hair. And so I'm going to lay down the vinyl and stitch it down. So another mark of a really good designer is that the tack down is 2 layers of stitching, 2 rows of stitching. So it would go back, it would go around it once and then go around it again. And some of the digitizers actually use a slight zigzag to their placement stitch to help ensure adequate hold when you're trimming. It's very easy. I don't know if you noticed when I was trimming, but it's very easy when there's just one row of stitching, one line, to cut through accidentally when you're trimming. And so I much prefer it when they have a slight zigzag or 2 rows of stitching all the way around. So I'm just trimming this right quick here on the machine because it's such a small spot, and I can pull that out. And then I think we're going to do the blue row of stitching. We're going to leave the pink in because it's going to get covered up, and then I'll change thread. That's another thing we're going to talk about, is choosing colors. Like, I usually don't use the thread colors as dictated by the machine, just because I don't always have the exact color that the designer used, but I always have something close. And so I go through my drawer, I'll show you my thread drawer, and I pick out something that I think is pretty close. And I Google an image to make sure that in reality I'm picking a close color to what is usual. Many of my designs are characters because my kids love them. I just noticed that I put old stitching right in the middle of her hair where I made my mistake before. So let me flip that around right quick. We'll do this piece. So we have to go back a frame so I can get my knockdown stitches in there. I'll go ahead and change to my blue thread since I'm having to fix my boo-boo. 1, 2, 3, 4, drop the presser foot. Learn to make that a habit. 1, 2, 3, 4, drop the presser foot. Like, just make it habit. Okay, so I've gotten my boo-booed place out of the way. And we're just gonna stitch. Oops, I raised the hoop up. There we go. Back to colors. So this is my thread drawer. This is not the best way to store threads, but it works for me and it keeps them out of the way. Plus, if I need to transport my machine somewhere else to work for a little while, I just grab the whole drawer and take it with me. My granddaughter, when she lived near, she kept it in rainbow order for me, and it was really awesome, but you can see I'm not as organized as she is. All right, so we're going to trim the blue excess off again right here at the machine. If I can see the thread, dang, that blue is close to my thread color. And I like having my machine on the end of this desk because it provides a way for me to work around the whole machine. Like, I can get to the back, to the front, any of it. And so I'm not sure what color this needs to be, but let's see what we got here. Okay, so that's a little piece of pink. So we'll put another piece of pink here. And And you'll notice that I'm not using any sort of spool end cap or thread, net, or thread stand. This is how I threaded my 770. Occasionally my 770 would act up and I would use a mug and I would sit it right here so that it would pull thread directly into the machine here. But putting thread stands on the end is a guarantee for disaster, because the wind from this wheel on the end will snag your thread at the least opportune moment, usually when you are under stress to finish something quickly. And so I don't recommend thread stands. I just don't. I've not seen where they solve the problems for the majority of people. And most of the time the problem can be solved by doing something else besides buying more stuff. So for a handful of people, the thread stand is helpful. But for the majority of us, it's user error. And so we can adapt and try other things that work. So I do have a thread stand that I use for my regular sewing machine. So I have used it with my 770. I've not had a need to use it with this machine at all. But the spool end caps tend to snag thread and create extra tension. That's what happens with the thread stands as well. The further away the thread enters, the further away the thread is from where it enters the machine, increases the tension and the pull on the thread, and so it alters your stitch out. So if you use a thread stand, you may find that you have to reduce your tension even more in your touch screen. So we've got this all trimmed up. Let's see what's next. So it looks like her face is next. So that's good. We can trim all that excess black out once we get that done. So I'm gonna hold this down in the back because it is raised up just a smidge and I don't want it snagging on the foot. There we go. So once this stitches, I will trim all of this excess black out, and then I will put down the layer of yellow for her face, which is the grungy yellow fabric. I'm also going to go back and answer questions again in just a second, so hang tight, y'all. I did email this guy when I bought the design, Wednesday or Thursday, whenever I bought it. I emailed the guy and asked if he would provide a discount since we have such a large group, and I was using his design for this tutorial today, but I never got an answer. If he answers me back, I will complain about this design and how it needs to be reformatted a little bit. But so far, the designers we've worked with, Ann Mikowski and Danielle Thornick and Janae Trammell, Itch to Stitch, they've all been awesome designs and flawless because they're well experienced and they know what they're doing. And they want us to have an enjoyable experience when we're playing with our machines. Okay, so now let's see if I can place my yellow here just enough to cover her face. Let's put that there. And I am going to change to yellow. so that my thread won't show through my fabric. 1, 2, 3, 4, press your foot. And then slide it into 6 and your threader. My grandkids, when they want to play with my machines, we often work together to let them learn to sew and use the machines. When they first ask about learning to use the machine, first thing I tell them is you have to learn to thread the machine. So I made them thread the machine probably 100 times before they were allowed to do anything else. They love touching the green button, especially the younger ones. But the older ones can actually do all of the designing in the software. I've showed them how to merge from the time they were like 7 or 8 years old. They've been able to do everything except hoop it. And so that's just tedious and time consuming. And so I do the hooping and they do all the other parts. So it's great to be able to pass on our skill and love for sewing. So once again, I'm going to go through here and trim this excess right quick. Remember that my yellow fabric has Heat and Bond light on it to help hold it in place. So I think most of the applique parts I have covered. I am going to go back to the phone, the camera, and answer your questions. And then when I'm done, I will post a finished picture of the shirt on this thread. But pretty much that's it. The only other thing I want to show you is on the back of the shirt. So let me show you this right quick and then I'll take questions and we'll finish this up. So when you get done with your design, you have all of these threads on the back. And so some of you have heard me say this before, I don't trim to the knot. When you trim to the knot on the back and the front, the knot comes undone. So on the back, I always trim anywhere a finger can reach under and snag, because I am going to use Wonder Under or interfacing. I'm going to cover this up when I'm completely done with an iron-on product, and it will eventually wear off. It will come off in the laundry. The only reason for using it is to minimize the scratchiness when this design is new. After it's been washed 3 or 4 times, it doesn't matter if that comes off. It's not going to be itchy anymore. For the majority of kids, it doesn't matter. If you have a very sensitive kid to textures, you might have issues, but just replace it. You know, the knit interfacing is at Joann's and it's like $1 something a yard. So trim any place a finger can get under, but don't trim close. Leave 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch and get the excess off. See, just pull up and cut all the excess. Leave about 1/2 inch or so where possible. Like this can still snag a fingernail, especially a kid's fingernail. So I'm going to pull it out and trim it even closer. So anywhere you can imagine that a kid's finger is going to snag on it when they're dressing or undressing, go ahead and trim that off. I don't know where that big blob came from. But that's how to applique, y'all. That is how you do it. I'm going to iron this down before I finish stitching, but I'm going to go back to the phone and answer questions now. Do y'all have any questions that I haven't answered? Let me see. Yes, Sandy, I talked about the spool end cap a while ago. Kelly's correct. Do you always stand instead of sitting? I sit and stand. I have a chair. Most of the time while I'm stitching, I'm also working on a design for the next shirt or the next kid's project or whatever. So I sit part of the time, I stand part of the time. My table is at standing height. Don't look at my mess, y'all. It's a disaster. But I stand here when I'm trimming most of the time and hooping, stabilizing, finishing projects. And I sometimes will sit at the machine, especially if I'm working on a computer project. So Kathleen, I'm glad you were able to be here. Yes, you can watch the remainder at any time. Pam, thank you very much. It took me many weeks to organize my files on my design and my designs in my files and to figure out a system that worked for me. So just find what works for you. But any other questions? That's how to applique, y'all. I'll put a finished picture up on this thread when I get done. This is what it looks like at the moment. So you can see all that's left is the satined and finishing stitches. She's going to look like that, remember, when she's done. And this is where she is right now. But that's the applique part, and that's what y'all wanted to learn. And I hope that this has been really helpful, especially for beginners. If you have questions about your machine or things acting funny, always go to the pinned post, which is our frequently asked question post. Now it's called announcement, I think. Facebook has reformatted everything, so now it's announcements. But there's 20 or 30 questions there that can be answered. There's a supply list. There are links to tutorials. There is tension information. There is bobbin information, thread information, loads of stuff there. We do have a whole post that is just dedicated to tutorials that are put out by various people from YouTube and different designers that have done them. We have some from Lenny Penny and Itch to Stitch that are on there. So there's loads of tutorials. We have done several Facebook Live videos. We have done one on stabilizers. We've done one for a hooded towel with the French frills embroidery design. We have a monogram towel that we did from an Itch to Stitch design. We have an In the Hoop stocking that we made at Christmas from Creative Medley's design. What else have we done? I hope I'm not leaving someone out. But lots of Facebook Lives. So if you'll use the blue search bar at the very top of the group page, go to the group page, and then in the very top blue bar, if you're on your device or on a computer, it's on the left-hand side of the screen. Use the search tool and search those terms. Stabilizer, and you'll get questions about stabilizer. And if you scroll through there, you'll find the stabilizer Facebook Live video. If you'll type in hooded towel, you'll find hooded towel information, and you'll find the video there. If you have trouble finding them, just tag me or Kyla or Jean and or Kat, and we will get to you as soon as we see the notification, and we'll tag you in the appropriate video. I wish there was a place just to put our Facebook Lives. I wish there was a tab just for admin posts or admin videos or something like that, but so far, no. So Sandy, that should answer your question about instructional videos. Yes, there are multiples of them. I'm glad y'all all joined us. I had fun. I'm going to finish my shirt and I will post it for you in a little bit. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them here or start a whole new post and tag me if you need to. Y'all have a great Saturday and a terrific weekend. Bye, y'all.